Hello and welcome back to Up the Villa. This is our ultimate guide to Aston Villa's summer transfer window, joined by Justin and Hannah. How are we both?
Hello.
Very well.
Right. Let's have a look at the state of play. What's in front of us, and then we'll delve further into it. So, from my understanding as a fan, how I perceive how we're operating, we are living on the edge from one transfer window to another. And that basically means that we are maxing out on each window. We then get to the next window, and because of PSR, we're having to then sort of navigate and move around things. And our model, and a lot of you will have seen that when Deloitte do their graphs, and it's revenue to wages, and we are 97% or something, and we are completely maxed out. That's our model. That's how we are looking to operate through PSR. So it's not something that we get to and we're like, oh man, look at that now. Like that's the plan. That's the vibe. And what that does mean that when we get to each transfer window is that there is a high turnover of players that will move around and will navigate certain areas. We'll look to do player trading like we saw last summer with Villa and Everton and Chelsea, etc. And we'll have these little partnerships with certain clubs that are still within PSR. And then you look at sort of like the overriding aspect of a transfer window. For me, regardless of Champions League, there will be players that leave. I think that's where I'm at personally. That's where my headspace is at. So it's not a case of, for me, we get Champions League, oh, no one's going to go, we're going to be completely fine. I think players will still leave. So for me, this is how I'm looking at the whole Villa window of Villa going into it. Is it ideal? No. Is it risky? Yes. But are we getting it right? Kind of. I believe that we got quite lucky last summer because we left ourselves slightly short going into the season. And then we started to see that we had to do a lot of business in January to resurrect our season. We need, for me, for this window to have a better ending to the window that moves us into a full season. So it is partly risky, but it's working. And that's just basically how I'm seeing it. Justin, I know you're quite clued up on it. So are you seeing it any differently to me, or do you see it pretty similar?
More or less identical to what you're saying. I think summer to summer is the big one, and then the assessment comes in the January window. What do we need to do to give us that extra help in whatever we're doing? And we saw a big influx in January, and that was much needed. And I think if you look at the results second half of the season, it definitely has given us that boost. But I think they would, in an ideal world, like to do everything in the summer and get everything done to give us the best chance of being a settled squad for the rest of the season. And yeah, finances, we'd love not to talk about finances, but we have to talk about it because it's where we are and what we're doing. And until we've fully caught up off the pitch and made the club, I don't think he'll ever be self-sustaining. I don't think any club really is really. Then we're going to have to carry on doing these deals. It's just a part of the game now. And I'm like you, really. I think I've made my peace with it. I know where we are. I know where we're at. For me, as long as the coaching side of things is untouched, as long as that group of individuals that deal with not just the coaching aspect, but the off-field stuff, the dealings off the field, the Monchis, the Vidiganis, and then that group of people that go and look at people and they feed it back to Unai. He looks at his overall squad. And then I would imagine, I reckon even just after the January window, they're sitting down having conversations about what they want to do in the summer, which leads us in nicely to what we've done over the last few years. And we've acted very quickly in the last two summer windows to get good free transfers in, good solid deals over the line. And that gives you that freedom then to try and get one or two real special players in if you can. And it is where we are. We are where we are. We saw the likes of Bailey looking like he was saying goodbye to the pitch. We looked at like Martinez being upset, and these things are going to happen. And none of us want to see our better players leaving, but I'm still firmly of the opinion that nobody leaves unless Unai Emery is happy for them to go. I just think that's the way we work. So if he thinks that selling so and so and so and so for this amount will open up 2 or 3 avenues of bringing in, different players, and he will know where he wants the squad to be next year. He will know where he thinks we've had weaknesses, and they will know of availability of players. So it'd be lovely for us to sit here and have that big picture, mapped out in front of us of what they need, what they're looking at. How does the finances stack up? What do we need to do? When do we need to do it by? And we don't. We only know when things happen. So I'm very, very confident and very, very calm about what's coming in the summer. But I do think there's going to be a lot of business done again.
Yeah, transfer windows, guys. I'm all over
7,000 transfer hubs coming.
I absolutely love them. I do. And Hannah Gowan, she only likes it when they're holding the shirt up. So, Hannah, what do you expect then from this up and coming transfer window?
I do think it's going to be a busy one. I mean, yeah, I'm already sick of it because for the last, 3 or 4 weeks, every day you open social media or a paper and one of your players is apparently, going off to X country for X club. And I just get a bit bored of it, to be honest. But I do expect it to be a busy summer. I think for quite a long time now, especially since Monchi came in, I think our recruitment has been good, like across the board. There's been very few signings that you think they were a total fail. There's been some that I think haven't potentially worked out to the type of money that we paid, perhaps Bailey being one of them, Buendia maybe. But in general, we've got it pretty right. And I think in the last 12 months, and even if you just look at the midfield, the way we've been able to craft that midfield for very little money has been an excellent success. What I think we've not done well, bar the 100 million for Greenish and perhaps the Duran sale, I think our outgoings have been really poor. I think we lose money constantly on players, which is common, but there are other clubs that do it so well. Brighton, Brentford, those types. I think what I want to see from Villa this summer is how we can sort of offload some of the players really tactically to kind of make space for new ones. I think we know that there's going to be several players going. There's some that I will stomp my feet until the day they leave, that I just do not think it benefits the club at all if they go. However, we know that it's coming. I think Bailey being one of them. Can we get rid of the likes of Moreno off the books? Coutinho will finally be going. We've got Dendoncker still lingering around somewhere. There's a chunk of players that are out there that belong to Aston Villa that we need to be rid of, and we need to make space, because obviously some of them just haven't worked out. Some of them are doing better elsewhere. But I think, yeah, it's going to be a busy one. There's probably a few areas that the manager wants to improve, like you've touched on there, Luke. The January window, we clearly targeted to kind of resurrect the season, and it's worked. Our form since the January transfer window has been significantly more consistent. So I think that, if anything, is faith that Unai and his coaching team and the recruitment team, the director of football, etc., have a very keen eye for targeting what this club needs, going out and getting it. I mean, the shrewd business that we did in January was brilliant, wasn't it? We got the 2 really good loan signings. We got Marlon in. We got rid of Duran for an excellent profit. So I have great faith in the club to do the right thing. But what really bothers me is that we're now in a world where PSR is obviously such a big issue, and you're getting rid of, to me, certain players that are at the core of the team that are very, very hard to replace. But I think, yeah, like you say, that's the nature of the game. I'm not sure that the way we're operating is necessarily sustainable. You touched on the wage to revenue ratio. We have the highest one in the Premier League. I think that will come back to bite us at some point unless we can somehow balance it out. I think it'll be interesting to see what that looks like come the start of next year when we see the figures from this season. Obviously, increased revenues will help to balance that out a bit, but I wouldn't say that we're operating necessarily sustainably, but I think it is an incredibly hard balancing act. We've had players on whopping wages, and for too long, obviously, we're underperforming as a club. So we have got a lot of catching up to do there, which will take time. So I think whatever we do this summer, as long as it's got the best interests of the club financially, yes. But I also don't want us to neglect the kind of stuff that matters, which is what's going on the pitch. So there's certain players, yeah, that I think we definitely need to try and keep hold of, and contracts that need to be signed as well.
Yeah, there's this episode. You know, there's a lot to sort of like get your teeth into here. So I'll try and make sure we are covering everything. I think something you've touched on about the actual players of signing players and how we selling players as well. I think there's different parts that some of these players fall into. So, for example, we can sign a player outright, stump up the money, Onana, 50 odd million. He's a signing that we make. Then we've got sort of PSR ones where sort of like you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. You work, you're spreading contracts over a long period of time, but then you're sort of getting money in from a club as well. So there's those type of ones. There's ones where a little bit like Douglas Luiz, where we get money for Luiz, but then we get 2 players. We then grow 2 players. Then their fee can increase over time. And then that deal ends up looking like, it could look like a 60, 70, 90 million pound deal. You've got those in there. So
They're
I think there are.
though. They are a
Yeah.
gamble. I think they're a gamble. I mean, Illing Jr. I've not heard about him. Did he play?
But then, well, you've got Baron Achea now on there as well. So he's now worth something around 25 to 30 million. So you're whacking that on top of the Douglas Luiz deal. So that, for me, that one is working. I think the other ones that, like Dobbin, for example. I mean, I'm not sure what we're doing there, but I'm with you on that one. I don't know whether that will make any money whatsoever, but you just hope that over time that it can. So I'll ask both of you then. So we sold Duran and we made good money on Duran. Do you feel like it's one sale or more? And this will lead me on to sort of like the next part of it, is that if we do have a deadline for PSR, which I imagine is sometime in and around June, that will mean that somebody will probably have to go pretty soon. And then it leads me on to Villa utilising the Saudi market, because those sales generally can happen pretty quickly because there's large amounts of money there. And why I'm talking about this as well is because you see certain things like, I'd rather sell Matty Cash before so and so. I'd rather sell Digne before so and so. But I think the problem with that is that the money's not there straight away. Some teams probably aren't prepared to go, Matty Cash, 25, 30 million, I'll buy him straight. They're not going to do that, are they? They're probably going to wait over time. But I think that Saudi market is something where we can get things done quicker. So, Justin, I'll start with you, and then Hannah, you can carry on. Is it one or more?
It's definitely going to be multiple players. But I mean, I think what you're alluding to is it going to be one or more of the big boys? Yeah, no. My gut instinct is one goes, the same as last year, and we do this. I mean, there's plenty of other players that are sort of. I'm just trying to sort of jot them down. I think there's players we can get rid of that will bulk up that amount and added to that the increased revenue streams and the seemingly imminent release of next season's second kit, I believe, which has been tactically done to bring in revenue before this June the 30th cut off. So I think all these things feed into, I don't think they want to do more than one of the big names. And I think you're basically talking Emmy, Ollie, Ramsey. That's the 3 heads on the block, I think, this season. That's this season's Douglas Luiz. And if you look at Martinez's reaction last game, you ain't going to be Cluedo, have you, to work out that it looks like he's got offers on the table. Now, there's still a lot of water to go under the bridge before we know what's happening, but my gut instinct is one player goes out, the big boys, and then we just lose squad players, then players that the manager has deemed that, we've looked at the way that Maatsen has come in now and took over that berth at left back, and that means we won't want to carry a Luca Dean as a cover on the wages he's on. He's still probably get a decent fee for him. Even the likes of Lamar Bogard, who's come on this season, been absolutely great when we've needed him. Rumours that teams like Ajax are looking at him. He would now fetch a decent fee, I would think, for his age and his experience. Bailey, definitely. And then the likes of Cash, Olsen's going. Then the sort of ones that Hannah alluded to earlier, Courtney Houses, the Dendonkers.
Courtney House!
Well, they're out of contract, aren't they?
Someone to
He's
take
hiding in the bushes down at Villa Park.
Yeah.
But they're the ones that are going to just be let go anyway. So... And there is a few kids in that, 21s and the 18s that I'm telling you now, after the impressive nature of the under 18 season, there's going to be some, and a lot of them are tied down to contracts already. And there'll be a lot of clubs, big clubs, looking at our under 18 saying there could be some value for money there. And we looked at the prices we got for Chukwuemeka, for what was his name last summer? We let go.
Kellyman.
We liked Kellyman. Some of these high class youngsters fetch big money nowadays. So, there's so many levels to what this summer. It's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out over the next few weeks.
Yeah, we'll go to you in a second, Hannah. I want to pick up on something Justin mentioned about he's saying 3. I'm saying 2. I think at most.
Who are you discounting?
And I'm talking big ones. I do believe there'll be others go. Like Cash could go. I think he could go. Like you say, Digne. I think. But what happens?
Big hitters, yeah.
Yeah, but I think what happens is that as the window evolves, we evolve with that window. Like, I don't think we'll set out straight away to say sell a Digne straight away, because what it means is you've got to then replace him. So you're having more work to do. I think what I would like to happen is that if someone's going early, they go, we deal with it. Then we can try and do the business that we need to do to improve the squad, what Emery wants. And then we can start to fine tune it and rotate
I think
it's like that.
It's breathing space. That's what they want to give themselves. And the way they give them the breathing space to relax, if you like, to a point throughout the summer is to make sure that we are compliant by that cut-off point. And I think it's one player going for a decent fee added to what we did in January. I think that's what makes it, for me, that only one of the big hitters needs to go.
I'll tell you, and we'll go to Hannah then. There's one deal that I've seen a rumour for, that when I looked at it, I thought, that's got PSR Villa deal written all over it. And it's Jacob Ramsey to Newcastle and Harvey Barnes to Aston Villa. Yeah. I look at that and I just go, I could see Villa doing that. So, Hannah, we'll go to you. What are your thoughts on all of the points we've discussed? And more importantly, where are you at? Is it 1, 2, 3, or where are you at?
Do you know what? I hate to bring the mood down. I'm finding this conversation is actually making me a bit sad, because it's like the state of football where we're like, oh, let's give away our best academy graduate since Jack Grealish, just to balance the books. It's driving me mad, and it's just like, if there's ever a definition of the game's gone, this is it. But I won't go into that tangent. I agree with Justin.
Do you know what? Should we put the title of this episode, "The Game's Gone"?
Yeah, I think. Honestly, I know we're all very sort of tuned into the business of the football club now, and we know that it's necessary. But I'm really talking now about going back to your roots as a football fan and listen to this conversation. And it's really just morbid, because you're talking about getting rid of all these players that you wouldn't necessarily want to apart from the fact that you've got to make money to meet a quota, and some clubs are clearly doing like how.
Can I just say one thing on that point, Hannah? And this is only based on what you've just said. I agree what you're saying, but I go back to the late 80s, early 90s when we had to sell David Platt. Now he was brilliant in the Italian 90. We then got a massive premium for him at the time, which sounds nothing these days, £5.5 million to Bari. And that allowed us to basically rebuild that team and kick on again. So I don't think it's anything new. I think it's something that's always been around. It is sad, but I think for time and more, with every team has to sometimes sacrifice players for the greater good, and that's all I see it as now. Is are we going to be more competitive next season? Hopefully, and that's the way they're looking at it, I think.
No, I do get that. Like, it's not a new thing that clubs have to sell players to make money, but this is every summer, and it's not just the club's in a bit of trouble or the club needs a few extra pounds. We're facing really quite strict financial regulation, which I think needed to happen. But then you've got the likes of Chelsea that have obviously spent huge amounts of money and have managed to navigate it somehow. I don't think any of us really understand the intricacies of it. But you've got clubs like, us in Newcastle, I know, are perfect examples of it, that have just constantly been hammered by it. And then you look at other teams and they seem to just manage it. Yes, they might be making more revenue, and that's the thing. But anyway, I don't want to get sucked into this tangent, but I think, it's a sad state of affairs, in my opinion. I think it'll be I do think we'll have a deadline, because we're going to be, like I say, pushing against what has been quite an unsustainable season in terms of coming off the back of such high wages and low revenues in relation to each other. So I think despite the Duran deal, where the kind of rumours of this 30th of June deadline won't have come from nowhere, and I do think there's going to be some truth in that. I think it will probably be one sort of marquee player leaving the club. That will kind of, I think one of you saying, to kind of set the stage for the summer. We'll kind of know exactly where we are. We'll know we're obviously probably going to have to replace that player, because I see them being a significant player like Watkins or Martinez. And then, we know what resources we've got, what gaps we need to fill, and what money we've got sort of spare change in the pocket jangling around. But I expect it to happen. Like Justin said, the tiers from Martinez indicate that that's the one, and preceding news articles of Barcelona, Man United, Saudi, all sorts now. So again, no smoke without fire. It seems like that'll have been agreed, and whether that was player agreeing or club saying, sorry mate, let's make an agreement, and he's had to say yes and he can go and win a trophy somewhere and it's sort of mutually beneficial, I don't know. But I don't think in this current team there'll be many players that really want to leave, because we have built such a good team now under a manager that everyone wants to play for, and we're finally competing at the very top. So it's an attractive place to be. So as much as people won't want to leave, it does mean that lots of people are going to want to come. So these are swings and roundabouts, but I will be grumpy about this for the next 3 months. So don't change my tune.
Right. So we've kind of spoken about, certain players could go, etc. There's one market that we have exploited in the past, and it's the free market. We signed Drew Tielemans on a free. There's a player doing the rounds, Jonathan David, who has ran his contract down. Justin, do you feel like we would be all over that, looking to sign someone on a free again, or do you think that's something that we'll overlook this time?
100%, yeah. I think it's a fantastic avenue to go in and do your deal, and I think you'd be daft not to when you're at the position we are currently at, because when you're in the top bracket of clubs in England, you basically should be able to go and cherry pick the best free transfers in Europe, because everybody wants to play for the biggest clubs, don't they, and the most successful clubs. So if you're a mid-table to lower league team in the Premier League, you're going to be very, very far down the pecking order for any free transfers. They run their contracts down for one particular reason. That's to have the pick of whoever they want to go and sign for. And a player of Jonathan David's quality will have the pick of dare I say, 20 clubs probably. Maybe 15 of them aren't, clubs he would even consider. But you would think the top end of those clubs are going to be the likes of us, and with our success in that market, I think, we could even see one being announced pretty soon. The last 3 windows, summer windows, we've picked off some of the best free transfers I've ever seen at Villa. Boubacar Kamara, absolutely ridiculous. And then Yuri Tielemans last year, the Leicester fans all crowing he was finished. I've never heard so much rubbish in all my life. The guy's just incredible at 27. So yeah, I think at 25, Jonathan David. I'm just looking at the free transfers this summer. Leroy Sané, he's 29, he's out of contract. And another big one that we've been linked with, Luke. Kevin De Bruyne.
Oh yes. He's saying he still wants to be in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Right. Let's not mention Tielemans to Real Madrid, otherwise Hannah will have a heart attack. Right. So, Hannah, Rashford, Asensio, do any stay?
I've really sort of ebbed and flowed about this over the last few weeks, because I think there was a little phase, probably, to be honest, around the FA Cup semi-final when everything was just a bit grumpy, where I kind of looked at Asensio and I thought, I'm not sure he's quite doing it at the minute. But then last couple of games, he has been really good. And again, depending what you believe in the press, it seems like he's quite happy in the UK. He might want to stay. I think of the two, he's more likely, and if anything, probably the one I'd want to keep, purely because he's just a bit different to what we've got. And technical ability-wise, when he's sort of firing, he's probably the best player we'd have at the club.
I think the fee's a good fee as well for him, but the reported fee was it around 14, 15 million, which is
he was pretty inexpensive.
Bargain, you'd say.
Don't know on the wage perspective.
Yeah.
That could obviously be a challenge. I think as a club we need to not have any mega wage people on the books, which is why I think Rashford is a no-go. I think maybe we could sign him. I don't think there's no chance that we could get him. But if you ask me, I'd say no, I don't. I think it was a fun loan spell, and there were some good moments, but didn't do enough for me to think, wow, we've got to keep him. And I think there's other people we could sign that would be better value for money, both in an initial transfer fee and on the wages. So could we get both of them? Yes. Do we want both of them? No. I would pick Asensio from the two if we could.
Yeah, I think going back to you talking probably around the 12-minute mark about football and the way it is and the tough conversation that we're having about players leaving, etc., is that when you're talking about the two, sort of Martinez and Watkins, when we're talking about Rashford here, signing for Villa, we're talking about Watkins maybe. When you're taking Watkins' goals out and assists and contributions, that's got to be some player that comes in and hits that ground running. It's like the old sort of like Harry Kane at Spurs, guaranteed 20, 25, 30 goals. You take that out, who's getting it? And okay, so it took a while to get Solanke there, really. But I think that's where we're at. And I think the question is, could Rashford just do what Watkins does? And I'm probably going to say no. So I think that's the keeper situation as well. Like, we could sign a very young goalkeeper who's good with the ball at his feet, he might be absolutely brilliant, but clutch moments, again, the presence, not just on the field, off field, it's going to take some player to sort of like replace him as well. So I think the most important thing I think about this whole situation, I think Justin's mentioned it as well, it's like trusting Emery, Monchi and Vidagon, like that old saying, like trust the process, because I do believe that this window is going to be a bit bumpy at times, and I think maybe don't judge a window while it's in fruition. Like, you got to judge it at the end, because you could judge it halfway, and it looked like we're on like the Oblivion at Drayton Manor or something. Like you got to judge it when we're like, I don't know what is it on Shockwave going up at the end. But I think you got to judge it like that really, because it's gonna be like turbulent. I think it's gonna be all over the place at times, but I think for me, as long as it comes together at the end, that's very important. And have a plan. And I think sometimes when you're getting linked with players leaving, like, let's make sure we've got the replacement first and in, and so that you're not getting like sort of screwed over when someone leaves and someone then turns you down, and you're then scrambling around for plan A, B, C. And I know Monchi has all these different targets, but like I'm saying, in some positions, if we losing a player, we've got to have plan A coming straight away, because they're not players that you can just sort of like mess about with, really. So I just think, like, as a fan base, just try and be prepared, because I think there are going to be players that do leave. And I don't really want this episode to be like a Debbie Downer of players leaving, but I think it's just having a bit of like a realistic understanding of what's about to happen. I think, because
Just prepare,
because I just think if we go into it naive and just thinking, nah, he's not going to, I think we're going to be all over the place, really. So I think, that's my like vibe on it all, really. But we'll be fine. And like Hannah said, Monchi's made some really good signings, and everything's coming together. And I think there's still some players that we've signed from last summer that are only now starting to look anything like what Emery wants them to look like. Maatson, Onana, those are two players that have grown as the season's gone on, and are now starting to look better and better. Donyell Marlon, hardly featured, but just be calm with him, because pre-season he'll probably start games early on next season, and he'll probably be one of them players where you're like, no way, like, he didn't start, but now he is, and his goal contributions are there. So I'm pretty calm about it. So I think everyone else should be, really. But let's have a conclusion from both then. Go with Justin then, so you can conclude the episode.
I'm happy. I love where we're at. I love where we're going. The pathway. What did I say? It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And this Unai Emery journey has been incredible, absolutely incredible. So for me, nothing is off the table this summer. They will look at the squad as a whole. They will make the decisions they have to make. And come the very first game of next season, I am sure we'll be looking at our squad going, we're in a very good position to have another really good season. And like you say, don't judge it in the first 2 weeks of the window, because we all know one or two of players that we all love, even like down to the Cashes and the Deans, who a lot of fans really like. They're going to be going, and that's football. Players come, players go. We remain in the stands. The Villa Park remains there, and it will always remain there. And we just got to enjoy them while they're there. So let's see what the next evolution of the Unai Emery era looks like.
Yeah, bring on João Felix rumours.
Oh God!
Honestly, that's the one that will finish me off. That'll finish me off.
No, guys, I can confirm I will not be doing anything on João Felix. I promise. Hannah,
Unless
then go on. Conclude us.
Honestly, yeah. Like, I've
On
made
a
it
positive, H. Come on.
No, I'm a level-headed person. I've said, I really, really support and endorse the football operations side of things, the recruitment we've had, specifically since Unai Emery came in. The business has been very good. I trust the manager with my entire life. Whatever he says goes. And there are, the incomings. They'll be exciting once I see them holding the shirt. I have lots of feelings about players going, but me not wanting players to leave is just a reflection of what a team we've built. 7 years ago, 8 years ago, a player left and you're just like, see you later.
Mm-hmm.
But we've built such a squad now that there's very few players that could leave that I'd be like, oh yeah, whatever. Other than those ones that are really on the fringe or out on loan. For the most part, our sort of 15, 16 man squad, I adore them all, and I think they've all played such an important part of this journey. So it will be a very, very interesting summer. I think we'll probably have to take stock a few times and kind of come on and chat around why we think certain things are happening and where we think we're going to be. But on the 18th of May or whatever it is, 19th of May, we kind of sat here with a week to go, expecting big changes to come. So it is just a case of brace yourself for impact in the next sort of or two, but ride the wave. We'll get through it. Us devoted players, devoted fans who hate the transfer window, which I think I am one of very few. So yeah, but it's all in good fun. So it's only a game.
Definitely. Right, guys, thank you everyone who's been listening and watching. If you want to get involved, share your thoughts. Let us know where you're at regarding the whole up and coming transfer window. And we're going to have a show that's going to come out next, which is going to be picking your dream Aston Villa signing in the summer. So stay tuned for that one. So thanks, everyone. Up the Villa.